I'd like to invite you to come closer. Just bring your chair if you'd like to. I'm used to playing in rather intimate settings, and some of you are so far away I can hardly see you, and I'm afraid you won't really hear what I'm telling you about. And some of the things I'm going to tell you I think are pretty important for us all to remember, not only for the people that we serve, but for our own well-being, for ourselves, and to remember to teach other people these things. I think the first thing that we need to remember when we're doing anything at all is why we're doing it. So I always like to start with the intention of what I'm doing. The intention of what I'm doing today is to help you to understand the importance that a very simple thing like music plays not only in your life, but also in the lives of those you love. Music has a very strong effect on all of us. As you know from listening to the music of the day, it's very loud, it's very raucous, it's very dissonant, and a lot of times after you've listened to music of that kind for a while, you're just like this. Your whole body begins to tense up, and you're very stressed, and that's not good for us. We all know that. I'm sure many people here today have told you of this in their presentations. Anybody have a thumbtack?
Since you're going to be in.
I think I'm left-eared. Now are we there? So part of what we're going to do is to remember why we're doing this, and the particular reason I'm doing this may be different from your reason, but this is my reason. Surely the presence of the Lord is in this place. I can sense His mighty power and His grace. I can feel the brush of angel wings. I see glory in your face. Surely the presence of the Lord is in this place. For those of you who attended the yoga session this morning, I'm sure that you were probably taught, or at least it was mentioned, the fact that we don't breathe very well. We think we do, but we do need to be very aware of our breathing. So I'm going to ask you all to breathe with me now. We're going to breathe in as we take a nice deep breath. We're going to hold it for a few moments, and then we're going to let it out through our mouth. Okay, breathe in through your nose with me, and out. Deeper. Breathe. Out. And now I'm going to ask you to continue to doing that as you close your eyes and listen to this. Quiet. Peace. Be at peace. pain. Breathing in brings peace, brings healing peace. Each breath brings peace. I'm breathing my very first breath. I'm whole and perfect. Breathing in radiant healing light. The light swirls from head to toe, warming, caressing, and blessing each wound, each injury I have ever received, bringing peace, bringing healing. A healing light becomes part of my body. I give thanks for this peace. Comfort. Peace. Is anybody still with fists and all clenched up? Is anybody still awake? It is amazing what this can do for you. I was asked to speak to you today about some of the experiences that I have had in cancer wards and in the hospitals playing for people. I remember John, an elderly gentleman who enjoyed my music and enjoyed having me stay to talk to him. And after a half an hour or so of playing for him, he would always ask me, "Do you have time to stay and talk for a while?" He had had his big toe amputated, and it was not progressing as well as the doctor had hoped it would. We prayed and talked about it and made jokes about it, and I continued to play music for him as I sat and talked to him, and he seemed in better spirits after I left. I went in to see him a few days later. His foot had been amputated. Then things got really scary for Big John. His entire leg had been amputated to the knee. A few days later, the entire leg. John said that he was not afraid of dying. He had always been a good man and had always loved God. But there was one thing that really did terrify him. He said he had never been a person to talk about emotional things. He had never discussed the fact that he was dying with his family. In fact, he knew his children, knew that he did love them, but he had never been able to say the words, "I love you." And he hated to leave them without telling them of the great love that he did have for them. And he asked, could I think of a way to help him to talk to them, not only about the fact that he was dying, but about the fact that he loved them? And I said, well, I know one way that we could do it. You could tell them the 5 things that we should all say before we die. I love you. I forgive you for anything you ever said or did to hurt me. Please forgive me for anything I ever said or did to hurt you. Thank you for loving me. Goodbye. And then I sang the song Sometimes for him. Sometimes, not often enough, we reflect upon the good things, and our thoughts always center around those we love. And I think about my family. You mean so much to me, and for so many years you've made me so very happy. And I count the times I have forgotten to say thank you. And just how much I love you. And just how much I love you. Just then, John's wife and children came in, and he told them he had a very special song that he wanted them to hear, and he asked me to sing it again. As I left them that day, John was telling his family how very true the words to that song were, and that he loved them all very much, that he wasn't afraid to die, but he did regret leaving them. And John did leave them that night. At his family's request, I sang Sometimes and Amazing Grace at his funeral. Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I am found, was blind, but now I see. I'm going to have to move the harp. As you see, the strings are different colors. Those are my guidelines. And this blue line in the floor up here is making me a little confused. I remember one of the very first times I played the harp in public. They had a striped carpet, and I was looking through there at the stripes. Very bad. Now, I don't know what excuse I'll make for the wrong notes this time, but I'll come up with something. Now, I notice on the agenda that you have, there are some very specific things that I'm supposed to inform you about. So I'm going to kind of do that as we go along. And if I should fail to miss something that you need to know in order to fill out your sheet, please ask me. It's very important that we understand how intervals work when we're playing for people or when we're listening to music with them. These are things that you could point out. You could pick out music to do for them. We want to know how intervals work, how they react with the human body. Now, if you're not aware of what an interval is, in our ordinary talk, we speak of that as the passage of time. Well, what we're speaking of here is the distance between notes. This is from one note to the very next one. It's a second. And intervals of the second have kind of a dreamy sound when you hear them. It's a second and a third. The second is dreamy. It gives you a little bit of tension. You're waiting for something to happen. And then you hear the third, which gives a very soft feeling to that. And it gives you the personal inner side of your human expression. When we have a fourth, 4 notes apart, it's kind of open. And it kind of opens us up to the spiritual world. We don't realize these things are happening in our body when we hear them, but they're there. And I had been playing music for a long time in the hospital before I found this information. I almost brought the books here today to show you, but they wouldn't fit in the car. A lot of books, a lot of study. A fifth, my goodness, that's wide open. If you have somebody that's all closed in and you start playing music in fifths, you're going to open them up. Hear how open that is? Isn't that amazing? But there's even something more about a fifth. If it's ascending, if it's a fifth going up, it's kind of asking you a question, isn't it? And if you play the same thing, but reverse, the notes going down, there's your answer. Isn't that amazing? It's going to ask, how come? Here's how. And because I said so, okay? The 7th degree, my goodness, that's just real tension back again. Hear that? It wants to go. Has to go. Now remember that very first thing I played for you when you were relaxing? Open fifths. There they are. It opened you up. I did this 3 times. You feel everything opening up. Then I started playing a lot of thirds. Another thing to tell you, this is a ground. This grounds people. If you have someone who is unsteady on their feet, a number of us here I notice, this will ground you. It will make you have a better sense of balance. It's also in a particular mode. A lot of you know the terms major and minor scales. Well, the ancient Greeks had different ways of doing that, and they called it modes. It's a rather intricate thing that if we have time, I'll go into a little bit. I'll skip around to be sure I cover everything here. The first piece I played, I hoped to make it a little bit more personal to you. I wrote a text that I recited as I put with that, put with the music. And it, I hope, evoked an even deeper feeling of connection. But just as different intervals can provoke different responses, so different music can cause different responses. The song that I played, sometimes it's all 7ths. Remember I told you that a 7th was a lot of tension that has to resolve. Has to resolve. There's a song that's been a real favorite of mine ever since I first discovered where it came from. When the Allied soldiers liberated a children's prison, they discovered that the children had scratched words into the wall of one of the darkest, dankest cells. And the words were, "I believe in the sun even when it isn't shining. I believe in love even when there's no one there. And I believe in God even when He's silent." Those words touched me a great deal. And then when I heard a song that was written with those words, I just knew I had to do something with it. Now, I didn't write the first part of it. A man named Carrie Landry did this. Hear that second and seventh resolving? I believe in the sun, even when it isn't shining. I believe in love, even when there's no one there. And I believe in God. I believe in God, even when He is silent. And then I wrote a verse to it. A very deep personal betrayal had caused me to lose a lot of faith, and I had a lot of hurt. And as I continued to sing, "I believe in the sun," these words occurred to me. I believe we must pray for those who have injured us. I believe God will help us to forgive, because forgiving is receiving, and because forgiving is believing in the power and the glory of God. I believe in the sun, even when it isn't shining. I believe in love, even when there's no one there. And I believe in God. I believe in God, even when He is silent. Even when He is silent. I think that song and the origin of it, the story of how that song came to be written, has a great power, and I think it really affects people when they hear it. I feel it. Well, I feel everything when I play the harp. All these vibrations just go right into me. I think I was a very sick person before I learned to play the harp, but I'm getting better. I just vibrate with it. The fact that this song has a special healing power was brought home to me when a daughter called me to come play for her mother. And I had to travel a great distance to get there to them. And Kate opened the door and she said, "Please don't be upset with anything Mother might say or do. She just really hasn't been herself lately." And at her mother's bedside, I was greeted with this angry voice, "And just who are you and what are you doing here? I don't want any music. You can go home now." But I said, "Well, if you don't want music, maybe I could just sit and talk with you and listen to you talk for a while. I did travel a long time to get here, and I'll sit here and rest while you talk." Well, she talked and talked and talked. You get the picture. And then she said, "Well, since you're here anyway, you just might as well go on and play something." So I played for about 30 minutes. And then she called her daughter, and I thought, well, it's time to go, isn't it? She's sending me out. She says, "Kate, do you think we've got enough supper to ask her to stay?" And Kate said, "I think we can manage that." And she turned around and looked at me, and she said, "Thank you." She turned around and looked at me, and she said, Well, Kate, while she's here and it's getting late, maybe she ought to just spend the night." So we go from get out of here to won't you spend the night with us with just a little bit of music. I left shortly after that. I did have dinner with them and did enjoy meeting them and talking to them. But while we were eating, she said, "Kate, now listen to me. I want you to pay attention to what I'm saying. I'm in my right mind now. And I want you to call Sue and you tell her I love her and I want her to come home." Well, I did leave shortly after that, and about a week later I got another phone call from Kate. She invited me to come play for her mother's funeral and to meet her sister Sue. And I met Sue at the funeral, and I talked to her for a while, and that was the first time she had been home or talked to her mother in 15 years. She did get home in time to visit with her mother and to tell her goodbye. There are some songs that really seem to touch people a great deal, and that they want to hear over and over. I haven't explained to you how the harp works yet. I might as well do that while I'm on the wrong notes here. Someone came up a little bit ago and looked at the harp, and they said, "Well, I didn't know a harp had pedals on it." Maybe a lot of you didn't know that. And not all harps do have pedals. This one is a grand concert harp. This is about as large as they make them for a very obvious reason. I couldn't reach much further than that. I do have two smaller harps. I have one about this size that a gentleman at Glasgow, Kentucky made for me. This harp's 100 years old. When I graduated from college in 1956, my father said, "Well, would you like to have a sky blue Cadillac convertible or a harp for your graduation present?" I thought I said I wanted the car. I'm pretty sure I said I wanted the car. But 2 weeks later, I had a harp. I didn't know how to play it. I didn't know how to play it. Shortly after that, I got married and had 7 children. I still didn't know how to play it. It made a lovely Christmas decoration. There was an elderly lady in Owensboro who had a beautiful home that was on the historic register. And she called and said, "Mary, I'd like for you to come play Silent Night at my Christmas party." And I said, "You know, I'd really like to, Mrs. Glenn, but I'm sorry, I don't know how to play." She says, "Well, you've got 6 weeks." Well, I want you to know I learned to play Silent Night. I didn't wash diapers. All the meals were either burnt offerings or sacrifices. I didn't dust, but boy, could I play Silent Night. The only thing I could play. So I went to the party, and I would go over and smile at everybody and play Silent Night. And then I would go over and look at the punch bowl and get something else to eat and talk to people. And then I'd glide back over and I'd play Silent Night. Sometimes I'd play it here, sometimes I'd play it up here. After I had done that about 4 times, this very prominent lawyer came over and said to me, "You know, Mary, I have a daughter getting married, and I think you ought to play for the wedding." And I thought, well, dear God, I can't play Silent Night. So I said, "When is the wedding?" And he said, "It's in June." I thought, oh boy, I've got 6 months. If I can learn something to get them in the church and something to get them out, maybe if I work real hard, I can put one thing in the middle. So I learned 3 pieces. I played for that wedding. And as I was packing up to leave the church, a lady came up to me and she said, "I'm having a patio party next week. Would you like to play for it?" And I said, "Sure." And that's what I've been doing ever since. Until about 6 years ago, when I got very, very ill. I had, this is a warning, folks. I had a cortisone shot in my hip with a contaminated needle. You don't want to do that. Be careful who you go to get those things. Anyway, I ended up with a bone infection. And the only way they could resolve the bone infection was to take out the bones. Well, you don't walk real well without a bone. So I had to stay in bed for pretty close to a year, flat on my back, couldn't even raise my head, while they cleared up that infection and then cleared up the allergies I got from all the medicine they gave me to try to clear up the infection. But anyway, this went on, in and out of coma a couple of times. You get the picture of that too. Life's strange. But after that, you know, I hadn't played the harp for so long and I was having memory problems, and then I started having tremors, so I haven't played the harp for about 3 years. Right hand works pretty well. Sometimes the left hand just doesn't want to get on there, but I'm getting back to it. But anyway, while all that was going on, I still haven't told you about the harp, have I? The harp has 7 pedals. There's 1 pedal connected to each degree of the string. For instance, this red one, I'll point out one you can see. And if you don't get to see it moving right now and want to see it, you can come after this is over and I'll be glad to show you. If you watch right up in here, you'll see what happens. There are 3 notches for each pedal. And right now, the pedal that controls all the C's, the red ones, is in the top notch. So that means that string is, I'm playing C. There it is. I'm going to put it in the middle notch. I'm going to put it in the bottom notch. So you get 3 pitches for each string. You get a flat, a natural, and a sharp. Didn't do that too well. Let's try this one I can reach better. Flat, natural, sharp. 3 pitches for each string. So I have to be sure that my feet are moving in conjunction with my hands. Well, not to make a really sad story out of this, I have peripheral neuropathy and I can't tell where my feet are at all. That's another reason I have to use the cane. But I have real trouble with that, so I have to dance around on these pedals to even get the right one. But I wanted to show you one song that people who are really, really ill tend to love, and another one that they tend to really like when they're on their deathbed. You probably are familiar with this song, probably with both of them. The first one is Yahweh, I Know You Are Near, and you may have heard this in your church. Apologize for the tuning, the air conditioning's killing it. Yahweh, I know you are near, standing always at my side. You guard me from the foe, and you lead me in ways everlasting. Lord, you have searched my heart, and you know when I sit and when I stand. Your hand is upon me, even in my death, keeping me from harm. Where can I run from your love? If I climb to the heavens, you are there. If I fly to the sunrise or sail beyond the sea, still I'd find you there. Marvelous to me are your works. How profound are your thoughts, my Lord. Even if I could count them, they number as the stars. You would still be there. Yahweh, I know you are near, standing always at my side. You guard me from the foe, and you lead me in ways everlasting. You guard me from the foe, and you lead me in ways everlasting. Another song that they really like. I will come to you in the silence. I will lift you from all your fear. You will hear my voice. I claim you as my choice. Be still and know I am here. Do not be afraid, I am with you. I am calling you by name. Come and follow me, I will bring you home. I love you and you are mine. I am the word that leads all to freedom. I am the peace this world cannot give. I will call your name, embracing all your pain. Believe in me, your soul will live. I am the strength for all the despairing, healing for the ones who wail in pain. All the blind will see, the lame will all run free, and all will know my name. am calling out your name. Come and follow me. I will bring you home. I love you and you are mine. Come and follow me. I will bring you home. I love you and you are mine. Thank you. I wish I could write songs like that, but since I can't, this has a little bit of everything that we've been talking about in it. It's fifths, fourths, every note on the harp, sevenths, what you just experienced then was an example of the healing power of music. We all know that music engages us in a way that nothing else does. Our body just relates to it. There's a specific reason for that. I think this is one of the things on your form, so you might want to make note of this. I feel like I'm talking out of my ear. Is that better? Scientific studies show us that all music is beneficial to bodies. And they show us also that live music engages us in a way that canned music can't. And they have gone further with these studies of all different types of instruments, and they discovered that stringed instruments are more beneficial to the human body than any other type of instrument. They carried the study still a little further, and I'm delighted to report to you that of all the string instruments that they reviewed and listened to, they discovered that harp music is the most beneficial music to a body. And there are a number of reasons for that they follow very sound scientific principles. Music is no more than sound waves traveling through the air. Sound waves travel at different speeds according to the vibration. A low vibration has a very wide vibrato. It vibrates very slowly. You hear it just rising and falling, but the upper registers go quicker. So when you hear a harp, you're getting sound waves of all different intervals, distances. You're also getting all the different variations of the particular note. And when these sound waves hit your body, they don't just come to a screeching halt. They go right on in. They get into your body. They hit your liver. They hit your lungs. They hit your heart. They hit your muscles. They hit your gizzard. They get you all over. And what happens? They're still vibrating, and you actually internally begin to have some vibrations, bringing oxygen. Isn't that amazing? Oxygen's one of the most healing things a body can have. And harp music brings you that. Isn't that lovely? I'm just delighted to know this. And the fact is, when I started playing the harp, I think even at the time I first met Nancy, she heard me, and I'm thinking it was about 10 years ago. I didn't know this. I knew it happened, but I didn't know why. So I got all these books and I did all the study I told you about. And what they call this is an analgesic healing process. That means it's a process that is non-invasive. Well, we know it does invade. I just explained that to you, but they mean you don't have to get in there and manipulate. So it can really provide a lot of help to the body. It improves respiration. I've played in the neonatal unit where the darling little things are hooked up to all kinds of things, and by the time I'm there 15 minutes, all the different gadgets are showing respiration becoming a normal thing. Heartbeat is beginning to be the way they want it, and the little things just sit there and sleep away. They almost purr in their little bassinets when they hear this music. They put me right up against the glass, and everything just vibrates, and they just snooze away. All the machines getting regulated. The people who work in the hospital, when I've been there, they say, "Oh, when I go home after you've been here, I feel so much better. I'm not nearly as stressed as I was." And they have definite percentages that are written here someplace. Oh, here we are. Research carried out at the San Diego Hospital and other leading hospitals around the country show that harp music helps to create easier breathing for 71% of the patients and reduces anxiety levels in 84% of the patients. In addition, 63% of patients report reduction in pain when live harp music is present. It also provides respite for family members and hospital staff. Seriously overstaffed hospital staff members report their stress levels are greatly reduced. More and more doctors, dentists, those in surgical operating rooms are offering harp music as an alternative to medicine. This is becoming a more usual thing to see in hospitals all the time. Different ways that we can use harp music to help improve the physical well-being of a patient. If a patient is short of breath and they're gasping, what you do is you go in, you sit down, and you begin to play at the same rate that they're breathing. Breathing very fast. You gradually begin playing slower and slower. This will get real slow. You sure you don't have a thumbtack? Nobody else had this problem. Are my ears that delicate? Maybe they had more hair to hold it down.
I think it's the glasses, too.
It's the glasses there. Put it over that.
Okay. Let me pinch just a little. Okay, now see how that.
Okay, now I'll play like this. Thank you. But you know, if they're breathing very fast and you entrain with them and you begin playing slower and slower, and pretty soon their breathing is regular. I'm going to save explaining modes to a little bit later. If we have time, I'll come back to that. Another good thing you might want to know is how to find your resonant tone. Each person has their own tone for their own body, and it will vary sometimes from day to day. If you are real stopped up and having difficulty breathing, if you put your fingers on the back of your neck, right at the base of your skull, try it with me. Just put them right there lightly, and you want to start singing the vowels. A, I, O. Put your fingers there and feel it and sing with me, and you'll find one of those vowels that vibrates more on your neck than any of the others. A, I, O. Right now mine's oo. Sing your vowel and kind of go up and down the scale. Ooh, there's my resonant tone right there. Do you feel yours? You get a vibration. That means that if you're going to sing or speak, that is your normal range. That's where you would be singing and speaking. That's the first sound that you do in the morning when you get up and you go, ah, that's it. That's your resonant tone. Even comatose patients can feel these waves. It was really a strange thing. One of the very first times I took the harp into play, they told me this woman had been in a coma for 3 weeks, but they wanted me to come in and play because she did love music. So I sat and began playing, and just playing along, and all of a sudden I heard all this commotion. And I thought, oh, is she dying? And I looked over. This is my first day doing this, and I thought, have I killed her? She was directing my music. They said she started out with her toe moving, and pretty soon both feet were going, and within 15 minutes, she was directing the music. It was amazing. I played for a lot of bridal shows, played for a lot of weddings. And at this bridal show once, this young man came up and was listening to me play, and he said, do you ever play in a hospital? And I said, yes, I do. And I told him some of the things that I had done and how music affected them. He was very interested in that. He got his fiancée. They came back over and talked to me for a while, and they engaged me to play for their wedding in several months' time. Maybe 3 weeks from the time they asked me to play for them, I got a phone call from his mother. He had been in a terrible accident. Both legs were broken. He had skull fracture. He had a concussion. He was in a coma. They didn't even know if he would live. They had performed this surgery that I'd never heard of before, but I'm sure a lot of you have, where they take out part of the skull and make a little pocket here and stick it in, and keep the bone growing while the brain swelling goes down. You've never heard of this? Well, I thought I was all by myself. I'd never heard of it. But anyway, after this swelling in his brain had gone down, they pulled the bones back out, put them in place, and pulled everything up, and there he goes. Well, they called me a couple of weeks, no, he was still in this shape, still unconscious. And he started regaining consciousness, and he kept saying something. They couldn't figure out what he was saying. Finally, his fiancée went over, and she figured out what he was saying. Heart music. Heart music. So they thought, he wants heart music. So they called me, and I couldn't go to him, but I sent one of my CDs, and they called a little bit later than the wedding was originally scheduled, but said he was up walking around and insisted that a wedding was taking place. So I'm sitting there playing, and here comes this smiling man with 2 canes, and his head looks like a jigsaw puzzle, and he's just happy as he can be. And beautiful wedding. The maid of honor's hair caught on fire. She backed up into one of the candles, but that didn't slow him down any. He thought very fast, and he just reached up. Nobody knew it happened. But exciting things happened during that at that wedding. And they told me at the reception that when he finally did wake up, he kept saying, "Where'd all that heart music come from? Where'd all that heart music come from? Why'd you keep playing all that heart music?" I've told you about the benefits to patients. I think we do have time for me to explain a little bit about modes to you. Unbeknownst to me, while I was picking and choosing songs, I was picking and choosing things that had very sound reasoning behind them. The modes are simply do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, but they start on different degrees of that scale. The one I just played for you is the Ionian mode. It's one that's very acceptable to our ears. That's what we hear. 5 minutes, okay? The second one is the Dorian mode. It starts on the 2nd degree. Now, some of these are going to sound really strange to you. The Phrygian mode sounds really dark. We don't like it a whole lot. The Lydian, don't you love some of these names? I love this one, the Mixolydian. The Aeolian. This is a really good one if you have a patient who's in a fetal position. It opens him up. And the Locrian, which we hardly ever use because it never does resolve. You can't find a way to stop it. There's no resolution to it. So those are the different modes, and unbeknownst to me, I was playing things in those modes. Physical limitations have really affected my harp playing, and while I was not able to get up around very much to play the harp, I still wanted to keep my spirits up and keep my thoughts in the right place and have the right intention. So I began writing poems because a lot of the people at the hospital had asked me what I thought heaven was like. And I wrote what I thought heaven was like. And lo and behold, I was also able to paint a picture of what I thought heaven was like. This is called Going Home. And you really have to see these up close. The colors are very subtle in all of these. This is the painting of Going Home. This is the poem I wrote. My dreams took me to the edge of the world. A tender voice said, "It's all right, come." "But I'm afraid," I replied. I stood for long moments, peering into the beautiful hues, longing to be within that soft, luminous light. Come. Hesitation became action as a gentle hand embraced my soul. The air caressed gently as the voice whispered, "Fly safely home." Look, all the blue tickets are over here. This one is called My Wreath of Prayers. There are angels around it, and just a big void in the center, which to me is looking upward. And the poem is, in a blinding flash, I ponder the immensity of your love. I weep, acknowledging my unworthiness and my squander of your gifts. Some sunset, the earth will bid me its final farewell. I hope before that day I may learn to fully cherish the beauty of night's starry silence, day's sacred delights, and that I may complete my wreath of prayers and hosannas to present to you. And then we have one called The Prize. Actually, this is one of the first ones I painted, and it surprised the heck out of me. I didn't know I could paint. I was just smearing colors around, and all of a sudden, there it was. This is part of a series of poems that I wrote about life being a festival that I was taking part in, and now it's coming to a close. I thought my part in the festival was drawing to an end. I sang the final song in my collection. My mind seemed drained of all inspiration and rested in silence. But as I slept, new melodies broke forth from my heart and demanded release upon the starry night air. I was singing all alone, and you came and stood by my door. My simple song was of your love. One plaintive little melody lingered with the full-blown music of the world, and you left the prize of a flower in my mind. The door to eternity swings open. One of my neighbors came in and said, I want to see how you do that. And I said, well, what do you want? She says, put some blue up here and put some purple and some green. And I did. And she said, now what are you going to do? And I said, I don't know, sat there and talked to her and looked at it. No, it's a door. The door to eternity swings open. And in that breathtaking, heart-stopping instant, life and spirit transcend. Broken promises and broken hearts become more distant than forgotten melodies. A majestic unfolding into a silent communion of grace, bestowed and received, reveals the reality of an inner glory as wings expand and lift, soar. I tell you, this is wonderful therapy. I'd never painted, never in my life, and I couldn't draw at all. Just get some paint and start smearing. Amaze yourself. Don't wipe away your tears. Let the silver streams flow down your face, leaving their healing tracks and washing away your pain. Don't be concerned, proper, or even polite. Let tears write the story of heartbreak as they flow on your cheeks. Feel and taste them on your lips, then drink them as a toast to blessings of the past. Let your broken heart be drained, for once emptied, it can refill to overflow with new blessings. They tell me that I'm out of time, but doggone it, I've got to do this one. I'll do it very quickly, and then we'll say goodbye. This one has about 35 angels in it that I did not know were going to be there. It's called Coming Attractions. This is my favorite poem. When I die, my spirit will rise up dancing and singing and breaking through the clouds with a burst of thunder and a clap of lightning. Hummingbirds will somersault all around me, while mockingbirds sing praise of my flight. Flowers will sway and nod, the ocean waves will clap wildly, as dolphins leap with sparkling spray reflecting my brow and wrist. The fragrance of gardenias and roses will anoint the air as I bow to God and say, "Thank you for a wonderful life. What's next, God?" Thank you. Thank you very much. It was my pleasure to be here with you today. Blessings on your journeys.